Hello, today's the 9th of October 2019, and I'd like to touch on a few issues today because there's been a lot going on astrologically. Also like to pull a couple of cards about what's been going on with the government and impeachment wise. But most of all, I wanted to discuss the full moon on the 13th of October around 2:15 in the afternoon Los Angeles time, which would put it, if you're in the East, 3 hours earlier, or in London, it would put you back 8 hours earlier. So we've got a full moon coming up that is really a powerhouse full moon, and we've already been feeling the effects of it, but really what we've been feeling also ahead of the full moon is we had Mercury move into Scorpio about 2 weeks ago, and as Mercury got around 6 or 7 degrees, which is just about 5 days ago, it was opposing Uranus in Taurus. And what that means is Mercury is our planet of communication. Mercury's got a really strong effect this month because it's moving into Scorpio. We're not feeling that same light Libran energy. We're feeling more of a intensification of communication, more fighting, more stonewalling with the Taurus opposing the Scorpio. There's a perfect example of stonewalling. And also breakthroughs, people having breakthroughs with Uranus in Taurus being the higher consciousness, the higher mind. Uranus in Taurus is breaking people out of molds of thinking. And it's even shaking the energy of the president, his thinking. It's like all around us, you may notice that people that were not so cooperative are getting a little bit more cooperative. But the Mercury opposite Uranus, it's bringing a lot to the surface that was hidden. Mercury being in Scorpio is ruling the hidden. It's ruling what's ferreted away, what lies beneath the surface, deep, profound thoughts, betrayals, and look at us today with the betrayal of the Kurds. There's a perfect example of the Mercury in Scorpio acting out against Uranus and just breaking all the laws, all the rules, all the ways that we've always done things. I'm not saying that everything we've done is correct, but this was a shock, and this was done with Uranus being a planet. It was very like it's the card in tarot of the tower being hit by lightning, and so it's like lightning comes out of nowhere. So here, this example and this messaging of our pullout there, and then the tape of him, President Trump, saying that he had a conflict of interest with Turkey because he has 2 Trump towers there, showing what is really driving the essence of this. So that's a perfect example of Mercury in Scorpio opposing Uranus in Taurus. What is being said is not the real reason. So we're going to see a lot of that this month. And when I was praying and meditating, I said, what is the real thing going on our earth right now? What is the essential message of today's video? And what I got was Mercury. Mercury is going to dominate and has dominated since this president took office. How is the messaging done? Is it true? Is it false? What is truth? What is the media? Are they true? Are they false? What is what are the ads on Facebook? Are they true? Are they false? How do we differentiate between truth and falsity right now? How do we know if we're not looking for things to support our intrinsic belief systems rather than looking exactly for the truth? Seisha, don't do that. Seisha, man, out you go, sweetheart. Sorry, doggy number 1. So that is the real thing. And then at the end of the month, on the 31st, Mercury being a planet that moves quickly, it's the fastest moving planet. being closest to the sun. It's fast. But right now, Mercury is in a slowing down phase because on the 31st of the month, it's going to go retrograde in Scorpio. So instead of Mercury just being about 21 to 25 days in a sign, we have Mercury having gone into Scorpio at the beginning of the month, slowing down around the 20th and going stationary in Scorpio, and then actually retrograde on the Halloween, then retrograde for 21 days, 22 days into November, and then forward again back through Scorpio. And so I think it's around the second week of December that it actually moves into Sagittarius. So we have this Mercury in Scorpio haunting us. It rules Halloween too. It's haunting us, and it's forcing us to get beyond the BS and to really find out what is going on beneath the surface. So that's why we're seeing these things being uncovered right now with Uranus opposing Mercury. It's bringing these things to the surface, but then they're hidden. And so it's like we can't get at them. So there's frustration when you have Mercury opposite Uranus. Every now and then you get a shoot of information or a fast decision made, like we were talking about our decision to go into, to withdraw from Syria. Just made it a quick decision, fast, bang. And Mercury in Scorpio opposite Uranus in Taurus, often we can do betrayal acts under that, because Scorpio rules a feeling of betrayal. So our country right now is very Mercury oriented. We're fighting to keep our press free and clean as possible. It is to keep that, to be that way, not fully biased and divisive, but that's a mighty task. And secondly, any little noises you hear are Seisha. Come on, Seisha. That's enough, sweetheart. Seisha's scratching a lot today. I got to check him out. So the other thing, getting back to what's going on right now, Venus went into Scorpio a few days ago, and it is now exactly today and tomorrow in opposition to Uranus. So don't be impulsive in your relationships, and don't have a short fuse. I would suggest, especially with this full moon coming up on the 13th, that's going to be a tough one. And I would suggest that you take space from your partner unless you're extraordinarily compatible, because there's going to be a lot of energy blocking and fighting other energy on that day. One will be the Venus opposite Uranus, so you think, oh, let's go out and celebrate the full moon, and then you could end up getting in a fight. Because the moon is going to be in the fiery cardinal sign of Aries. It's a very restless sign, very competitive moon, and a lot of fire to it. First sign of the zodiac, it's a very impulsive, self-starting moon, so it's not a moon of restraint. Like we just came through a Pisces full moon, which is like the polar opposite of that. Or not the polar opposite, but the opposite. That in its nature. The moon in Aries is just fast forward. Now the interesting thing about this full moon, it's at 20 degrees Aries opposing the sun, obviously at the same 20 degrees, because that's what a full moon is, a moon in opposition to the sun. But at the same time, it's got this beautiful square going on with Pluto. So you've got Pluto squaring the sun, Pluto squaring the moon in Capricorn. So we're going to have this strange compulsive energy within us. We want to do something, we want to move forward, we want to be exuberant, we want to start something, and Pluto is restraining us. So it's like we're being stonewalled by the energies, which is exemplified right now in what's going on in Congress with the presidential situation of impeachment. So that's what it's going to feel like in leading up to that moon. As you know, as the energies build in the last quarter toward the full moon, that's the most intense period of our month. It's very strong and very, with this kind of full moon squaring Pluto, I would say it could be very combustible, and I wouldn't be surprised if Turkey doesn't really do some pretty bad stuff there with the Kurds, like an annihilation of people. And yeah, that's a possibility because Pluto is very combustible. There's the toppling of a whole situation. A whole structure is going to be broken down and separated. And the Aries moon is a very feisty moon. It is a war-like moon, and squaring Pluto, it's not a great combination. So it can be used for great athletic prowess. It can be used, that combination, for great creative ability, but in general it can be very fierce and not a happy situation right now on Earth. I would suggest on that day to walk in the nature, to have a run in the mountains, to go to the ocean, to balance it. Have a nice Epsom salt bath, massage, something to tone it down, to bring balance back in order. Because the next week, I feel, is going to just get more and more intensified. Mars is catching up to that sun in Libra by the end of the month, getting into the 21st, 22nd. Our sun moves into Scorpio, so we're going to have Mercury, Venus, Sun all in Scorpio, but we're going to have felt the energies of Scorpio throughout the whole of October. So it's like Scorpio energies lasting for 2 months. So huge revelations coming out. So think again, around the 28th, 29th, the sun is then going to be opposite Uranus. So there's a secret disturber here behind the scenes, not that much behind the scenes because Uranus is pretty explosive, is Uranus, and it's hitting that Scorpio 3 times. And then when Mercury goes retrograde in November, it's going to back up and oppose again Uranus in Taurus. So we've got a Scorpio Mercury feeling, and the feeling of Mercury, I thought, why am I feeling Mercury so strongly? And why is Mercury ruling? Because it's a little planet, and yet it's got this huge force right now. And of course it's because it's exacerbated by Uranus, which is the higher consciousness. But it also, when I was looking at that chart for the United States in the first week of January, when we're getting that Pluto sitting on top of Saturn, the first week of January at 22 degrees. And I look across at the United States chart and I go, how is the United States chart going to be affected by this major conjunction? There it is, opposite Mercury, the United States Mercury. Then I look over at Donald Trump's chart and I see that Donald Trump has his Saturn on the United States Mercury. So look at how that's all orchestrated. We are going to have a massive focus on information, on truth, on integrity, on what is really going on. That's going to be our main thought over the next 6 months, 3 months in particular. Now, we've often wondered why Donald Trump would have this Saturn feeling to our country, so heavy, so cumbersome, so burdening. And when I look at it, I see that the Saturn is sitting on our Mercury. So from the moment he got in, there he was using his powers to restrain the powers of communication, the freedom of speech, the projection of thought that other people are lying and cheating and blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, you know, trying to restrain and to promote his own personality, his own situation through the election on the his whole situation of Saturn right on the Mercury. He has been the person that has most brought the American attention to freedom of speech. And are we losing our freedoms of expression? And also we've been looking at the internet and the truth and lies there. We've been looking at the media, the truth and lies there. We've been looking at our own words and how bombastic we have become, how defensive we have become, how edgy. Mercury is about that sort of electrical energy, how it's all been affecting us tremendously for the whole time since he's gotten in, or since he was even running. Because look at how he was using the Russian force of communication. Again, there's the communication and messaging, using that in a way to bring about the winning of his own election. And again, trying to take misinformation, Mercury, with Ukraine, or enticing other countries to provide him with information, again, to influence the effect of an election, which is a Mercury-ruled situation, an election. It's what do you think? What are you writing on paper? What is your belief? Who are you voting for? So this whole idea of freedom and truth and the higher truth, Uranus, breaking the old ways of how everything's always done, and really examining our own words and our own way of influencing others. This is profoundly coming to the forefront. And this actually, his use of words on a telephone call, where he started out to use words to create his rise to notoriety, the Mercury effect of a telephone call and of transcripts of that call and of his words that he's used over and over about inviting other nations to come in and support his election and give him dirt on the other candidates. All of this is Mercury ruled. So the Mercury situation, it's obvious that at a soul level, the United States and other parts of the world wished to have the plutonic effect of communication revised, renewed, redone, but especially the United States with our Mercury opposing Pluto. And during the time, during the next year and a half of the Pluto return of the United States, which has never happened before, because it takes 240 years to go around the entire chart of the United States. This is a huge, huge time for the United States to either make it or break it, to redo itself, what was done wrong in the beginning, to rectify it and to rise from its own selfishness or pride of being that may have not always been founded on truth. And he's, in his negative way, is positively influencing us to be passionate about truth, to be passionate about the ballot boxes, to be passionate about the electoral system, to be passionate about how the social media is using ads, to be passionate about the media itself and how it's affected and inflicted its opinions on people, brainwash people. So our whole focus will be to go to the higher consciousness of Mercury to find out the real truth. And if we go inward to our wisdom self, we will know the difference. We will sense when someone's lying. If we can go beyond ourselves and our own belief systems to the essence of truth within our being, we will know. So this whole period coming up, I'm going to do another video very soon on the coming Mercury retrograde in Scorpio and how it is going to affect your chart, your being, and how it's going to bring a lot to the surface to be considered and restructured over the next 2 full months when Mercury is in Scorpio. This is a time of deep diving, not surface chitter chat. It's about deep diving. Examining also your own beliefs. Are they founded? How are you relaying your beliefs? Is it necessary? Is it perhaps Mercury in Scorpio can also be a very good listener? Is it perhaps not a time to also listen? So I'm going to end there, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in. I would like to thank you for liking these videos, and I do so love when you leave your comments on the YouTube channel if you can, or on my Facebook page. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. I love to hear what topics interest you that you would like to have addressed. And I will end there, and may you feel still beyond all of this to the deeper, higher wisdom self and to the capacity to love and grow in divine angelic mercy yourself, for yourself and for others, as we all tread this path together through some very challenging times. Thank you, and God bless you, and may God be with you. May the force be with you.